Hi, my name is Grace Shalom Hopkins and welcome to another episode of Spin Weekly. Today we are going to be talking about the most essential tools for a fiber studio. This is my minimalist must-have list for fiber artists with a few disclaimers. Disclaimer: I don't think that you have to have any of these things to make you a real bona fide fiber artist. I don't think you need to have anything to make you a bona fide fiber artist. Also, I think that it is extremely valid for people to be saving up for tools. If you are a spindle spinner who's been having some like fraud syndrome, feeling like you're just a wimpy spindle spinner, A, check out the spindle spinning tags on Instagram, and B, dude, you are doing what people for thousands of years were doing before we had wheels. Like, there is no point where you should be getting fiber shamed. If you are, even if you're fiber shaming yourself, don't do that to yourself. Be nice. Our community deserves better, including you. You're a member of our community. So that's my disclaimer. Also, disclaimer, many of these tools are very simple machines that humans have been creating for hundreds, if not thousands of years, depending on the tool. And you don't need to have the Cadillac of the thing to be a valid thing. Like, just because you don't have a Magicraft wheel doesn't mean your Babe wheel isn't a wheel. Again, there is no tool shaming in the Spin Weekly community. And if I see any of that, which you guys are all cool, so I don't think I will. But if I do, gotta nip that in the bud, because that's not what we do here. So, with all of those disclaimers in place, let's move on to my first point, which is sort of also a disclaimer, since it's not a thing that you need to have. It's a mindset. The most essential mindset is you need to have a clear goal. When you have a clear goal of what you want and what you like, and you're true to yourself and your aesthetic and your skills and your desires in that goal, then you go forth and you do research and you research the products. Do good research. There's nothing worse than being like, oh, I found this drum carder and it's the first one I've ever seen and I didn't do any research, and don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Do your research. Compare brands. Get on people's newsletters. There's often a lot of information and coupon codes and things like that depending on the vendor. Call people with the actual telephone. Get on the horn and talk to people's customer service departments. There are a lot of really informative and excellent people here. I would recommend Paradise Fiber. Their customer service and knowledge on these subjects is brilliant. Brother Drum Carter for all your blending needs. Grace. I mean, how could she not be great with a name like Grace? Grace is wonderful. There are so many people out there who are ready to help you if you take the chance and contact them. So don't ever be the guy who didn't do the research, because you don't have any excuse for it. You gotta do that stuff, you know? Even if you don't like talking on the phone, you can shoot an email. Like, there are ways to get in touch with the information that you need to make the choice to bring home the thing that gets you to your goal, which you've previously defined. So you need a strong goal that's true to yourself. You need to do the research, and then next, if at all possible, you need to test the items out. If there are fiber festivals, if you have friends, if you can go to a shop, if it's all possible, test them out and see which one works for you. Now, I have never been anywhere near a place where I could test out any of my tools and it was never a disaster. But if in the future I will always try and test it out. If you can't test, you need to be even more hardcore about your research. Lastly, you need to experiment and take risks and be confident and just jump right into using this thing that you have obtained. Really, really use it with confidence. Don't get stuck in a rut because you're nervous. Really use it. And that will lead you to the mastering. I personally think that you should master a tool before you move on. So in the categories that I'm about to give you, I want you to master one piece from each of those things before you move on to another piece. That's my personal philosophy. You can take it or leave it, but that's my thoughts. And then you repeat all over again. Every time you want to obtain a new supply or a tool, think of your goal, find your research, test it out, compare and contrast, get really intimate with it, really know it, take risks, master it, and then move on and broaden your horizons. All right, with that aside, my first fiber essential is a spinning thing. Spinning wheel, spindle, whatever. A thing that spins fiber. I personally have used a Country Spinner 1, a Babe Pinky wheel, and the one that I have right now is a Louette S17. Each wheel has its own strengths and weaknesses. Once you have that goal in place, you can do the research and narrow down which one fits better for you. One thing that I think is really important as far as wheels is whether the wheel is a giver or a taker. Takers like yank the yarn in a little bit, and givers you have to like poke the yarn in the orifice. I hate givers. I want it to be a taker. So whenever I experiment with new wheels, the first thing I need to figure out as part of my research is if it's a taker. So that's something that I think is important there. I have linked to a couple of videos on how to pick a good spinning wheel down below. If you have any questions, you can contact different retail places or manufacturers, and they have really good thoughts there too. Next up is a blending thing. I think that everybody who has a well-rounded fiber practice has some kind of a blending tool, be that a drum carder, a blending board, hand cards, hackles, combs. I think that's it. One of those things you need to have a well-rounded perspective, and you can use any of those tools to do almost any technique. The ones that have the most limitation is the hackle and the combs, but they come with the ability to do things that the carding cloth tools can't do. So again, refer to your goals, do your research, and make a decision. Next up, and here I have links to Brother Drum Carder, which is the brand that I have used. I've used all of their entire supply line. They do my drum carder and my blending board, and I have loved all of them, from their fancy Cadillac blending motorized thingy to the blending board. They're great. Next on our list is, I think that everyone should have a small stash of undyed fiber, preferably different blends and breeds. This is a great way to expand your horizons if you just bring home a pound of undyed fiber. Anytime there's like a good deal at a bulk supplier like Paradise, you can get a pound of the fiber, and that's an excellent way to get it. I usually split it into 4-ounce increments, so I get 4 different colorways, but you can do more or less from there. But a pound is affordable, and you get to experience different breeds that way. So don't ever let your stash become stagnant as far as undyed fiber goes. That's how I personally feel like I can incorporate new and exciting things. Which leads me to the next piece, which I think you need to have dyes. You need to have, in my opinion, again, see my disclaimer, you need to have the primaries plus turquoise, brown, purple, orange, and hot pink. Those are the ones that I like to get a pre-made dye with. I have used jacquard and gay wool and Ashford and Cushing's and Dharma. I think there's one more that I've used. Maybe just those 5. Okay, but I've used all the major ones, and each one has their own strengths and weaknesses, and I have put my comparison video to those down below. Red is a good place where you want to be real picky, because true red, you kind of have to shop around to find the one that you want. So keep that in mind. But you can pick your palette, so if you're really into like neons, your whole palette could be neon. Or if you're really into earth tones, muted stuff, your whole palette could be earthy and muted. But from this dye set, you can make any shade under the sun, anything. And I have left a list of the colors down below because I know I ran through that really fast. I'm trying to talk fast because Bean is upstairs and I know her attention span is shrinking as I go. So I really think that people should be able to effectively dye their own fiber. Even if they don't actively do that primarily, having the ability to do it and doing it with that undyed top is a really important skill. It expands your perspective on color and texture and gives you all kinds of ideas and allows you to experiment at a really low-cost way. Next, I think you should have a rainbow sorted stash. Now, I read from the book of Designs by Amber here. She has a formula for her stash. She has faux cashmere, merino, sparkle, sari silk. That is her palette. Now, if you have a narrow palette like that, you can get in bulk in every color. Now, I don't think you should get in every possible shade of pink or every possible shade of blue. I think you should have pinks and blues and greens and yellows, and just pick the one that speaks to you, and when you replace it, you can get a different shade. Versatility, this is not about being scientific unless that is what makes you excited. For me, I just collect all my bits and pieces and end bits and anything from like spins or Paradise Fiber of the Month Club. Any bits and pieces I separate immediately out into my colors. That helps, so when I'm about to do something, I can just pull out the green bag and go with it. As far as building that stash, you can do something like, if you really like Angelina, you can get either a whole huge Angelina, one of every color, Roy G. Biv, one of every color from a sale, and save on shipping and get it all at once. Or you can, every time you place a fiber order with a company, get another color. Or you can just treat yourself once a month to a little fiber stash builder. Whatever works for you, that's a good way to build it out. If you focus on the color and the different fibers that you love. So if you know that you want to try exotics, you can just purchase yourself a small sampler, like maybe 1 ounce every little while, of a different exotic until you find one that you like, and there's no push to use it right away. This is stash building. But when you need it, you have it. You see what I'm trying to say? That's my philosophy. Lastly, I think potentially the most vital tool here is the internet. The internet is the place where we can connect, we can share resources, we can share inspirations, tips, hints, tricks, books, videos, classes, education. This is the place where you hone your craft in a community of people. You get inspired, you do the research, you connect with new suppliers. Here is how we are keeping a 1,000-year-old craft alive in the age of technology, where my house can be hooked up to like OK Google if I wanted it to be, even though that's creepy. It's because of this technology we can keep it alive. So I think it's really important that we utilize this tool of the internet in a really effective manner. So because you're here on Spin Weekly, you've already figured out that YouTube is a great place to do this. I have a whole video called Fiber PhD, DIY Fiber PhD, and I've linked that down below. That has more thoughts and ideas. Ugh. I talked really fast because I was trying to get a lot of information in a short period of time. if you got lost in any of that, the list is down below with a like Cliff Note version of each thing and all these links that I've mentioned. Here is my question for you. What is your essentials list? What is your essential tools? I want to know. I want to see into you guys' studio. Also, thank you for listening to this information-packed video inspired by all your questions and comments. Even though trying to filter this down into just a few hot tips is impossible. This is an incredibly complex, organic, living craft, and I am never going to advocate for doing something that doesn't feel right for you. If you want to, use the same 3 ingredients on the same tool and spin the same yarn 1,000 times until you are the best burgundy hand-combed top lace weight spinner on the planet, that is what you should do, because there is a place for you, people. That's the thing. I mean, you do you, but that was my thoughts. The only real caution is I encourage people to get out of their comfort zone and keep experimenting because it brings life to your creative practice. Also, don't go so wild that you don't have a chance to really dive deep into anything, because diving deep is also a way to strengthen your personal creative practice. I hear the baby crying, so I'm gonna sign off. If you liked this video, hit the like button. Comment, like I said, with your essentials down below. I'm super curious. If you don't want to miss out on any of these videos, hit the subscribe button. And as always, this is brought to you by our Patreon patrons. If you would like to support the show financially, you can hop on there and I will send you awesome thank you gifts. For example, I have my super maxi resource list of supplies available as a PDF to patrons. So that's cool, and it applies to this video. Until next time, have an excellent day. I love you guys. Gotta go get my baby.